So here's the thing about strategic projects. Most women think they have to go find one, something big, something shiny, something that sits on top of the 50 things you're already doing. And when somebody finally tells you, go be strategic, go do the thing that gets you seen, a lot of really smart women do the same thing. They freeze. They stare at the blank page and they think, I'm a doer. I solve problems. I'm not even sure how to go about making one of these things up. And that's exactly where my guest started today. So if you're feeling that, you're not alone. Her name is Jen, and she's a senior leader at a professional services firm. And she'd just been promoted, and she came to our sessions ready to pick up her strategic project, but she was drawing a total blank. And so I asked her what the problem was, and she told me, too much on my plate, too many hats. And I stopped her because that was the wrong question. She was going to what was going to make her better. And I didn't want her biggest problem. I wanted the firm's biggest problem, the one that she keeps bumping into, the one that she quietly works around every single week. She thought for a second and she nailed it. She said one word, growth. And you could almost see it click. And later she told me that that one turn really reframed the whole project. Because here's what I want you to hear today. Your strategic project is probably not something that you need to go invent. It's already sitting there inside your job. It's the leaky faucet that you keep mopping up instead of fixing. It's the thing that everyone complains about, but nobody owns. So Jen found hers. It was hiding in plain sight in how her firm handed out the work. And what she did with it became, in her own words, probably the one biggest thing that they've done. It changed how the firm runs, and it changed how the partners see her. And it's this kind of thing that she can point to for the rest of her career. So today she's here to walk us through it, how she found it, how she built the support to pull it off, and what actually changed. So if you've ever been told to be more strategic and had no idea where to start, this one's for you. So let's get into it. I'm Jill Avey, a career success coach, and this is SisterSmart Leadership, the show that explores how women can rise from director to vice president and beyond by fully leaning into their feminine energy as their biggest advantage. Let's get you one step closer to the recognition and promotion you deserve. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jen. I can't wait for people to hear about your story because you've created such an amazing project at your company. And so I was remembering how when we first were talking in your one-on-one sessions during the Strategic Leadership Lab that we're talking about what project will you do, and you felt kind of stuck. You weren't sure what to do.
Indeed.
So can you tell me what that was like?
Ooh, okay. I certainly really focused on being introspective rather than focusing on our company's growth and the insights and the challenges that we were working on there. Once you challenged me to kind of think outside the box, think outside that narrative, growth for our company was the target, right? So we are trying to grow in so many different aspects, and one particular, area stood out as like, oh, why didn't I think about this before? Because the results could be so much more impactful.
Which is so perfect because that's what this program was all about, was how to make more
Mhm.
impact with the things that you're already doing. And so
I,
when we pick a strategic project, I don't want to add one more thing on people's plates. I really wanted it to be something that you would be doing already. And so
yeah.
I remember that click of like, oh, of
Oh,
course it's growth, because that's what our company's always struggling with.
yes.
And yeah.
I needed that reframe, certainly.
Yeah, then you got right there. So, tell me about how you got to work on the project, and we'd love to hear kind of how did you get started with it, and once you figured out what the
Sure.
topic was.
Fascinating. So yes, it was definitely a internally couple of stakeholders and I, noticing these particular problems with employee workloads. And really when we dug into it, it uncovered, some things that we could tweak internally to benefit not only the employees, but the bottom line. Like this, the problem was systemic, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
where, a few tweaks on the front end, expectation setting and the like could really benefit in the long run. And so coming to work on it is something kind of naturally, so to speak, between, myself and a couple of stakeholders because I was already doing it for a certain population in the company. But I think that it was definitely, hey, Jen can solve this. I've said that I'm the, company problem solver. It is one of my strengths and my weakness, but certainly that was probably the way that I got involved initially in that particular project. It took a couple of conversations to get to where we ended up because there were different ideas of how, one, understanding where the real problem was or problems,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then two, what changes were going to be best to move us forward, right? So that was really kind of tricky. But in my wheelhouse to sit down with stakeholders and talk things through and collaborate, that is certainly something I do relatively regularly, but really kind of getting to the crux of where is this problem starting and how can we, really work with, say owner level changes that
Mm-hmm.
that's tough. So
Yeah, and I'm hearing a few tools that we talk about in the lab, which is you pulled together your coalition, which were the people that
there
were
we
going to
go.
help you on this, and you
Yeah.
also looked at, what from a enterprise level. So when
Yeah.
we're shifting our thinking to being strategic, we're thinking more
Mhm.
holistically with the whole enterprise, and then I think there was some of the vital few here of using the 80/20 of once you talk to everybody and
Burrito.
got all the ideas
Mm.
out, then how did you
Yeah.
figure out which ones to move forward on?
What's actually going to change and give us, the best possibility of success and the most progress forward, set us up for success in the future, so to speak. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, honestly, that I think y- I had heard the concept Pareto. I'm an
Hmm.
MBA, uh, but putting it into practice using the strategic lab framework, the way that you kind of walk us through that, really that critical thinking element is important to really putting that concept into practice.
Yeah, were there some tough decisions of what to
Tough
do and what not to
decisions.
do?
Indeed, indeed. I mean, anytime you're working with owner level stakeholders, folks that, they're so used to doing things their own way, uh, getting one, their buy-in to actually like make a change, to understand that this, project could really affect the, company's bottom line. That's tough. That's a translation problem. That's a habit problem. That's an agency problem. There's so many
Hmm.
different, aspects that you have to consider there. Really tough. Now, the other end of that spectrum is, we're promising new employees a certain bill of goods, so to speak, to use one
Hmm.
of the other stakeholders' terminology for it.
Yeah.
Um, and so our reframe of that was to, okay, we set expectations coming in. Here's what we're going to give to you as an employee here, the experiences, the level of service, internally. Here's what we expect from you. And so that has certainly kind of provided a lot of like, I hate to use the word comfort, but it is certainly, some setting expectations for people changes the game, right? They really
Hmm.
have a better understanding of what their day to day looks like when you know like what's expected of you. And I think it's
Hmm.
such a subtle difference. Um, in my field is highly competitive internally and externally. And so getting work just in general is really like it's critical to moving the ball forward and developing as that employee, right? So it's certainly changed the game a lot for these particular employees and for the firm's bottom line. So, because we uncovered some issues as you and I discussed in this process, some things that certainly needed to be some bad habits, some things that really needed some help. Um, Not that I don't think happens in other companies of our, background field and the like. I think it's a common thing and just something that we were creative enough to, think about and put into action
Yeah.
to
Yeah. And
to work on.
You really uncovered that you had employees weren't being utilized in the way
Ah,
that they could be, and
yes.
that wasn't, it was just habit patterns for people. And
Indeed. Or so,
so
I mean, certainly to your, yes, we found folks were being underutilized, sometimes out of competency issues or one or two situations, but also favoritism. Somebody works
mhm,
with somebody and they really like working with that person, so they go back to them over and over again. That's,
yeah,
completely
right,
understandable. But also, again, the industry I'm in, they talk to another person, they're like, oh, that person, we know that they're going to be successful. They've demonstrated competency. You go, that starts to spread. These are things that we think about as employees generally, right? We want this for ourselves, we want this for other employees. But
right.
sometimes, especially in this line of work, that can create inefficiencies and inequalities in the experience level, right? So we certainly want to make sure that everyone gets the same opportunities or at least similar opportunities.
Mhm.
And it was affecting the bottom line. You had people skewed on the spectrum, right? The utilization rates were all over the map. You had folks who were burning themselves out,
Mhm.
potentially, or like at risk for that because they were always the people getting the work. And then there were folks who were just, people were walking right by their office and not giving them work either from, avoidance or because they didn't know them well enough to give them an opportunity. And
Yeah.
those are the types of things that we really kind of had to grapple with and think, okay, how do we really fit these problems into our mold to create a framework that sets us up to avoid these problems in the future? So
I love, how you got to see all of that, and then you set up also some skill building
yes,
for maybe employees who were getting overlooked because they weren't quite there yet.
that's right. That's right. Our professional development program, we put a lot of effort into bringing the stakeholders in to teach.
Mhm.
And so that is an ongoing process, right? Like neither parts of this process have been perfect. Certainly, we've been met with challenges. This part of the process has been exceptional because that is an area where both the stakeholder shines, the owner shines, and then, the employee is getting eminent amounts of benefit from these processes. So it are these, teaching moments, right? So it's a regular cadence that we've set up in, a build on those skill levels over time and really, sets us up for even more success.
Yeah, I mean,
I love
that's
it.
so great, that knowledge transfer, and yeah,
Indeed.
and giving people a chance to build that up so they can be
Ah,
the one of choice. And yeah, that's great. Well, all projects have what we call the muddy middle, and so
little
it
signal
doesn't always
there.
go,
Yes.
smoothly. What were some of the challenges and road bumps that you found?
As I've alluded to, those owners, oh my goodness, I would say that, I think that the perception is that, excuse me, we're that there's a loss of agency there when we take away their ability to just go to whoever they want.
Yeah.
And that's, it's an unfortunate line of thought, but I inherently understand it. Like I get that. No one wants, to have to follow process and procedure, but when we do, and we can show them over time, and we have been able to do this, that, hey, the bottom line is showing success in
Yeah.
this. It's been an easier argument to make. That doesn't mean we haven't had to have adjustment and realignment throughout, right? Or, those pain points, as you're pointing out, that, somebody falls out of line, so to speak. But honestly, I think they're working on a particular problem or issue. They go to whoever they think is going to be the most capable of solving that issue without, dealing with a middleman, so to speak, which is, me and those two other stakeholders. And so
Mhm.
that's a tricky situation. So
Yeah.
luckily, I have long-standing good relationships with all of our key stakeholders, and that's huge. So I think
Yeah.
that they respect me. Um, I can have, maybe not owner level conversations with them, but I can have like the stand in your doorway conversation, so to speak, and go, okay, what are
Yeah.
we doing here? So
Yeah. You're asking the very senior leaders to change their behavior.
You know,
Not an easy
no,
ask.
no.
You had some relationship here, but how did you get them to try it out?
So that was really tricky. So I'd say at least one of them asserted his lack of agreement, but because of respect for, the stakeholders and myself involved, he's like, I'm gonna try this, see how it works.
Oh,
So
fantastic. Yeah.
right. So that was one. Other is just constant redirection, like, hey, we need to know, we need to have these conversations before you're assigning someone. It is a lot of redirection. And I think,
Mhm.
oftentimes when you're implementing new procedure and processes, redirection and realignment, it helps throughout. It's really tough. Some they're so busy, this is the last thing they want to commit to memory, especially when they're automatically like have an aversion to it generally.
Yeah.
So redirection, being in front of them more often, saying, hey, and noting the benefits of,
Hmm.
their change in habits is one or a couple of different methods that we've used there. So
Hmm. Fantastic. So, and that makes me think about, as you did you pilot it with just one person to start, or did you pilot with the whole group?
no pilot. I will say of all the projects, and I am a seasoned project manager, where normally pilot is the best way to go. We ripped off the Band-Aid with this one. We put a
Yeah.
lot of thought in it ahead of time, decided on a framework, mostly because we knew that there was going to be resistance no matter where we were going to be met with, or we're going to be met with resistance no matter what. Um, Pushing the framework out with confidence was the decision of choice. And, I think that ideally it has been incredibly beneficial overall. I think we'll have to tweak along the way, which, certainly one project
Hmm.
management tool. So
Yeah, absolutely. And your willingness to do that and change, have it change and grow
mm,
with the needs.
yeah,
And you've been tracking metrics for this project as well.
weekly.
And yeah,
Yep.
and how fast did you report out to be able to get information to them?
So at least the first month, we saw adjustments starting to be made. Within the first 2 to 3 months, I started seeing adjustments in other areas. It easily showed us where there were some folks who were either not reporting hours accurately or consistently, and I was able to have conversations with those employees, say, hey, it like here's what we're seeing in the data. Just numbers are not reflecting how busy you are, the types of, assignments you're receiving. So let's, talk about this and make sure that, the data's like the more that you accurately report your data, the better this is going to come out in the wash, right? So we're
Hmm.
going to have more accurate metrics. So that is another tweak that has had to be made as well, is
Hmm.
making sure that the data that we're receiving is clean and good so that we can make those
Yeah.
decisions and have those conversations.
And how has it turned out for you and the partners?
I'd say great overall. We have so much more visibility into what's happening. The profitability curve has changed exponentially, right? So I think it is a wonderful program. I do think that we're going to, have those struggles. I think when you're dealing with humans and people
Hmm.
and their, um, different, we want that agency, we want that individualism, that, process and procedure. There's always going to be a little adjustment needed along the way. And if we see an adjustment that needs to be made in process and procedure that would create more alignment, certainly because we're remaining open to that and touching base really frequently, having those conversations is super helpful. So I think it's been wonderful for the firm, wonderful for me as an employee as well.
Yeah, and all those stakeholders are, they're benefiting and happier when the firm is doing better, and so I'm sure bringing them back around to that helps
Yeah.
too.
I mean, it's huge when we have a new potential business. It's easy to see who we would be able to easily, grab for a particular placement, and
Mhm.
if that's at least on the workload level, we can see their expertise, we understand exactly what they've done and where we can slot them in for particular projects. It's it's a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Beyond the firm, what did this project do for you?
Lots of, I came to this strategic leadership lab, you because of you specifically, having followed you for a while and watched your work. But clearly I was struggling with some things internally about, myself and how I was perceived as an employee in my role, in my position. I think it certainly gave me confidence that, I've had all of this experience and these impacts. This one in particular really showcased that for me and showed that, those other stakeholders and owners exactly like where my placement was. Like, so I felt like internally it gave me confidence. It also gave, that opportunity to showcase my skill level and where I feel like I am. I was able to show that in real time.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's exactly what this project's about. So
Yeah,
it was so good to be able to see you do that in real time
oh,
and
love
watch
it.
your confidence grow. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Anything else about the lab that you'd like to share with anybody who might be on the fence of whether to do it or
Ooh,
not?
so many things. I loved the opportunity specifically to be in a room, I realize virtually, with
Mm.
other women in the same place as me, or it felt like they were in a similar position in the same place in their life and their career as me.
Yeah.
And hearing their stories was just, I could see the change in myself go, okay, one, I'm not alone. Two, hearing their stories and how they were dealing with them, and even, their successes, their difficulties, the things that they were struggling with, talking about the tools to kind of work with those through your lab specifically. I mean, there
Hmm.
are just, so many different aspects of that that really spoke to me.
I think the group is
Huge.
such a huge part of it. And we do a lot of discussion time so that you
I
really
love it.
can learn from each other. And yeah,
And it's hard to give that time, but it is critical, I think. And I'm so glad that you structure it that way. I think that the lab work is spot on.
it is hard to create that kind of time for yourself. When do you ever do that during the day if you're
Yeah,
left to your own devices, right?
I know. Let me work through lunch. Let me like work until
Yeah.
7 or 8 at night to get that done. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I taking the time. That I'd say with a mind shift as well. Like, you know what? This is this is something I need to do for myself so that I have a better understanding of why these things are causing me such internal conflict. Um, and your leadership lab is incredible. You've put so much thought into it, and I really think that the tools that you engage with the folks who take it, they really are meaningful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's so great to hear. Yeah, it's just so good to hear your story, and I really appreciate you coming on and talk about it with us today.
honored. Thank you.
Anything else that you want to add before I close up?
I could probably go on for days, but if you're on the fence, definitely take the plunge. I know it is very hard to give yourself time to think through finding the right coach for you. I think that Jill, you've got a lot of skill and expertise working with folks of our particular level,
Mhm.
with my particular issues. So I think take the plunge.
Jen, thank you. That was so good. Here's what I want you to take from Jen's story. Your strategic project is probably not something you need to go invent. It's already sitting inside your job, and it's the thing that you keep working around, that leaky faucet that nobody owns. Jen picked hers up and she found the vital few and made that happen. She built the support. She turned an everyday staffing headache into the biggest thing her firm has done in years. And That's what being seen as strategic actually looks like. It's not louder, it's clearer, and it's aimed at what matters most. So thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, I would love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what's the leaky faucet in your own job right now? The problem that you keep mopping up that could become your strategic project. I read these and yours might be the one that helps another woman see hers. And if Jen's story got you thinking about your own strategic project, here's your next step. This is exactly what we teach inside the Strategic Leadership Lab for Women, what we've been talking about today. It's a 6-week program where you learn to be seen as strategic and you walk out with a strategic project of your own, the kind of thing that you can point to for years, the way Jen can. The next group starts on September 11 and early bird pricing closes August 15th. You can grab your spot here at sistersmart.com/SLA. And if you're a female leader who wants to make a bigger impact by leading at a higher level in your career, subscribe either on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more women succeed in leadership so that our world gets the benefit of what women bring to leadership. And if that's aligned with you, I'd love to have you be part of this community and tune in to more episodes on SisterSmart leadership that will support you and more success for us all. I'll see you in the next episode. If you're ready to fully lean into your feminine leadership and get promoted from director to vice president and beyond, hit that subscribe button so you'll get all the episodes to come. And check out the recommended video here to see how women are rising up without playing by the old rules that built these male-dominated industries and systems.